I was a hitting partner at the Mubadala DC Open. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about what being a hitting partner is, what accesses do you have, what my setup was for that week. For example, did I change my tension, and how often or how many times did I restring my racket during that week, what practices I saw, and what is it like being a lefty as a hitting partner, because it's a bit different being left-handed versus a right-handed player. During that week, I was very lucky to practice with a couple of top players, and I was also fortunate to have a friend film about a 45-minute practice session with Talon Greek Sport, who's been ranked as high as 21 in the world. I'm going to be walking through a bit of the practice session with him, what I notice, what I like, what I think I can take into my future practice as well, and maybe you guys too. So what is a hitting partner? A hitting partner is a staff of the tournament. In other words, you are hired by the tournament to be there for that week as a practice partner for the players. So for example, your practices can either be 30 minutes long or an hour or two. If a player has arrived early to the tournament and they don't play until Monday or Tuesday of the following week, you might have up to a 2-hour practice with them. On the other hand, if it is the day of the match, typically that player, either male or female, will have a 30-minute practice, roughly 2 to 3 hours before their match, to get loose, warm up all their strokes, and then head on court shortly after. So as a hitting partner, you have to be ready to either be there for a couple of short practices or a couple of longer practices, depending on the time of the week and how the flow of the tournament goes. Being a lefty hitting partner at a tournament is pretty interesting because once the draw comes out, if that player is not facing a left-handed player, they will not want to warm up with a lefty. Why is that? That's because a lefty hits very different balls to a right-handed player. The spins are different, the angles, especially on the serve. A lefty slice is very, very different than a righty serve. This year was a bit interesting because you had a lot of lefties in the tournament. You had Ben Shelton, you had Alejandro Tabilo, you had Lerner Tien, you had Manarino. So there are a lot of lefties in the tournament, and you kind of want the left-handed players to win so that you get to practice with a few more players as the week goes on. At the start of the week, I was lucky enough to play doubles with Alex Ayala and Venus Williams before the draw came out. They were meant to play doubles before the tournament started. Unfortunately, they couldn't, but it was a pretty cool experience at least to be able to be on court, on the stadium court with both of them, sharing some points. For that week, I played with a full bet of 0 at 52 pounds. Usually when I play with players of this level, meaning players that hit the ball very hard, I go up about 2 pounds in tension. So over the past couple of months, I've brought down my tension from 52 down to 50 pounds to get a little bit more pocketing and string movement off my string bet. So at this tournament, I increased my tension about 2 pounds to 52 and a half pounds, mainly to get a little bit more control on my strokes. How often was I restringing my racket? Usually with a 16 gauge string, my strings break every 2 to 2.5 hours in. Roughly, yeah, I would say that every 2 to maybe 3 hours, I was getting my rackets restrung. Also, if I knew I was going to be having a long session, about an hour to an hour and a half long practice, I'd make sure to start that practice with a fresh bed of string, a fresh bed of 0, so that it could last me the entire session without having to worry that the string is going to cut or that I'm going to be losing tension. So during the week of the Mubadala DC Open, I had between 20 to 25 hitting sessions. So I would say I roughly restrung my racket about 12 times that week. I was lucky enough to hit with Talon Greek Sport. I'm going to be walking through a bit of the practice session with him. So what's very interesting is that for the most part, pros start with mini tennis before their practice. You do have some that start straight from the baseline, but I would say 70 to 80% of the pros start with mini tennis, but within 20 to 25 balls, you're gradually making your way back all the way to the baseline. And even then, you probably have, after hitting about 20 to 25 balls, you're gradually making your way all the way to the baseline. When you get to the baseline, you're still not hitting at 100%. You're probably at that 50 to 60% range. Usually, this is the first time you're stepping on court, so you want to make sure that your muscles are loose, your legs are being activated, and most importantly, your wrist is loose as well, to make sure that the racket is flowing well through the movement of the ball when you're making contact. After about 5 minutes of hitting from the baseline, that's when the pace begins to pick up a little bit and you're hitting closer to an 80-90% level capacity. The pace picks up, but still you're hitting through the middle. I think it's something that I learned a lot from the players this week is the importance of rhythm. I would say that in these first 10 minutes, it's rare for the pro to miss a ball. If they do miss, it's never going to be in the net. They're always missing long. So I think that was one of the biggest takeaways that I had is, number one is the rhythm of play, making sure that they don't speed up the warm-up, but they're getting really, really good rhythm as you gradually progress through the stages. And then it's the consistency. If you're going to miss, you're going to miss long. You're not going to miss in the net. So the players are getting really good height, really good string and racket movement, working their way and going through the ball. So I think those were important takeaways for me. After warming up from the middle, that's when you go into the next transition, which is cross courts. In this practice session, Talon had a match just a couple of hours later. So what we did was a traditional warm-up, nothing special. We went cross court on the deuce side and then cross court on the ad side. Because he was playing a lefty, we made sure, or at least Talon made sure, that the cross court on the ad side was a little bit longer. So I would say on the deuce side, we did about a 3 to 5 minute cross court. But then when we got to the ad side, that was almost about 10 minutes long. He wanted to make sure that his backhand was ready. Playing a left-handed player, in this case, Alejandro Tabilo, Tabilo's going to be hitting a lot of balls cross court. So Greek Sport had to make sure that his backhand was ready to receive likely all those balls that would come at him there. After warming up cross courts on both sides, we took a quick break, grabbed a drink, relaxed a little bit, and then we changed sides. That's also something really important, especially when you're playing outdoors, that you see players do, is when they warm up, they won't just warm up on one side of the court, but they'll get both sides. The reason is because of the sun. At this time of the day, it was around 10 a.m., but since he was playing at 1 or 2 o'clock that day, the sun would be moving. We switched sides, and then we went right into a couple of volleys and overheads. So Talon came first up to the net, and we had a few rallies of him volleying back to me, back to the middle. Here, the most important thing, again, is movement. Players, when they warm up their volleys, they spend about 2 to 3 minutes up at the net. Usually not that long, but for them it's important to activate the legs. You can see that Talon is making sure he's doing the split step, making sure he's stepping forward on all the volleys and staying activated. That's the most important thing when you're volleying is the legs. The legs have to be extremely active, because I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that recreational players have, is that you volley with your arms rather than your legs. Then I fed Talon a couple of overheads, and after that we did the opposite. I went up to the net, I hit a few volleys, a few overheads, and up until this point, we're about half an hour into the practice session. Usually when you're practicing, the professional players have a coach, usually have 1, 2, or even 3 coaches with them on court. The coaches there are meant for a couple different reasons. Number one is to coach the player. They want to make sure that their player is motivated, that their player is active, that they're working on the necessary things to get ready for the match. And then what they also do that might seem small but makes a big difference is they help pick up the balls along the way. They want to make sure that their player is constantly active, moving, getting ready for the next ball, and they don't want them wasting any time going to the corner to pick up a ball. After we warmed up our volleys and our overheads, we took another about 5-minute break, and then we jumped back to the court, again on the same side as before, but now to warm up serves. I think one of the most important things about being a left-handed hitting partner is getting ready to hit a lot of serves. The lefty serve is very different than the right-handed serve. The spin comes completely different way. If you think about it, when the lefty serves to the deuce side out wide, they're going to be serving with a kick. But if a right-handed player serves on the deuce side out wide, they're going to be slicing it. So it's a completely different spin on the ball. When you get requested to play on court, you spend about 15 to 20 minutes just hitting serves after serves after serves. I think in this practice session, I hit about 80 to 100 serves to Talon. About 30 of them were on the deuce side, and then 50 of those serves were on the ad side. He wanted to make sure that, especially on the ad side, he was ready for the serve out wide, that his backhand was reading a lefty slice properly, and that he was getting ready to return. His backhand was able to read a lefty slice properly to get ready for the match. After I warmed up my serves on the deuce side, Talon would serve on the deuce, and then after that, I would serve on the ad side to him for about, in this case, 50 to 60 balls, and then he would serve back at me roughly 10 to 20. When the professional players warming up their serves, they've hit so many serves in their career, they don't need to hit that many balls. They roughly hit 10 to 20 serves on each side, and then they're good to go. Practice partner, on the other hand, will probably hit closer to 40 to 60 serves on each side, mainly because the professional needs to get the returns ready for the match. So after hitting serves and returns on both sides, We wrap up the practice and then head back to the locker room. So usually at the end of the day, when I'm done playing, I make sure to stretch. During a week as a hitting partner, you're probably hitting between 4 to 6 hours with players of this level, both on the men's and the women's side, so your body can feel a little bit torn. So I make sure to spend about at least 15 to 20 minutes at the net stretching. I've done the same stretches for the past probably 10 years, but for me it's been critical. So that's what I put a lot of emphasis on as well, is making sure I get a good stretch in on court before wrapping up and heading back home. Out of all the practices that I had that week, the player that impressed me the most was Alejandro Tabilo. First of all, his coaching staff is extremely kind. His coach is also from Argentina, so it was really nice to be able to speak with him and a bit more on the personal level. We're actually from towns pretty close to each other. And but yeah, Tabilo's ball honestly impressed me the most. It was the most powerful ball. It had a ton of weight behind it. What I thought was very surprising was that when he was hitting his ball, it felt like he was hitting down on it rather than lifting the ball with spin. It seemed like he was hitting down and through the court. So for me, it was the practice that I struggled the most with, mainly because of the timing. The ball was coming fast at me with a lot of pace, and I was struggling to really get through it and give it back to him. So all the hits that I had that week, I would say Tabilo impressed me the most. Overall, how I feel playing with players of this level is that as long as you go through the middle and you go cross court, you can more or less maintain rhythm. But once you start doing points, movement drills, different patterns, you can really tell how these players are at a completely different level. I think the most surprising thing overall that I took from this week is how early the players take balls. For example, when they were serving, after I hit my return, they were inside the court ready to hit that serve +1 action. Whereas for me, I would serve, and after I would split step, I was already on the back foot because of how early they were taking their return. So I think for me, that was the biggest takeaway, is how early players are taking the balls. And this is both on the men's side and on the women's side. On the women's side, I hit with a couple players in the top 30 and top 40 on the WTA rankings, and same thing. I was extremely impressed with how early they were able to hit balls and also redirect. I would say my movement is on the better side, but yeah, when you get to hit with players of this level, the pace that they hit at and the timing they have is it's pretty impressive. So that's what it was like being a hitting partner at the DC Open 2 weeks ago. I had a great experience. The tournament is always 10 out of 10. It gets better year after year after year. They take care of the players and the hitting partners really well. And for me, it was a great week because not only did I get to play tennis on site with the pros, but I also got to play tennis with my friends off site. We made sure to get some strikes, some balls in. We watched a lot of tennis together. We got dinner during the week, so really a lot of positives. Next week's episode is gonna be very fun. We filmed the podcast with Will Woodall. Will was our very first reString athlete. He was on the doubles tour, made it to a doubles challenger final. He played doubles with Brandon Nakashima at the Cincinnati Masters 1000. And as of November of last year, he started coaching Haley Baptiste, and together they got up to as high as 25 on the WTA ranking. So Will has now become a really good friend of mine, and we sat down and spoke for about half an hour about his whole transition coming from the juniors tour to playing at one of the best Division I colleges at the University of Virginia, transitioning to the doubles tour, and then as one of the top WTA coaches. So stay tuned for that episode. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.